Hi, everybody. Welcome. This is Via and Christy doing our 411-135 training.
Good
How are
morning.
are you excited to do this?
Am I? Oh, yeah, I am. I'm ready. I trust you. You're going to make me look good.
Famous last words. Well, thank you guys for being here. The reason we're here today is that Christy and I really wanted to do 135 and 411 training for our team, for our executive leadership team. So our team leaders and MCAs and productivity coaches and ASCs and designated brokers. And Ben and I often talk a lot about, why would we hoard training, right? When it would be such a benefit to everybody. So I asked Christy if she'd be okay with us doing this for everybody. And she jumped in and said, yes, she would. So this is primarily designed for our leadership people. And I'm happy that you guys can participate. As always, if you have any questions or comments or anything on chat, just chat away on there and we'll get back to you. I had a really good comment just now. Robin LaChapelle said, Via, thanks for doing this. I've always found this a bit confusing. So Robin, my history with the 411 is I used to find it really confusing as well. When I first learned it, it took me years to really incorporate it. It looked like a big spreadsheet that was a little intimidating. I didn't really understand it. And I know Christy feels the same way. Once I started incorporating it into my life, it was a game changer.
Yeah, I know I avoided using it, actually. I've seen it as a tool around Keller Williams for many years. And it wasn't until I learned I needed to grow the people that reported to me that I had to master this.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
what's happened.
That's right. Yeah. All right. Well, I am going to share Z away. Oh, we've got some Canada going. Can you guys see that okay?
Yes, I can see it.
But first, there's more. Wanted to invite you guys to a couple of things. We've got Win, Make, Give and career visioning coming up. So career visioning is for any of you who are interested in hiring someone or have a team currently. It's really Ben Kinney showing how he's grown his empire, how he's hired, how he's trained, how he's retained his top people. And it's really one of the most important classes you can take. All of our people are attending. It's really important for me and for all of our people to go. So I highly recommend it. That's in Bellingham in about a month. Win, Make, Give is just a life-changing class. In fact, it's funny, I was looking through my 411 and what I'm going to share with you today, and you can see after Win, Make, Give, one of the months I'm going to share you as a sample. And my personal financial, it's all about Win, Make, Give. It started helping me review my net worth every month and increase my net worth. It's really a great class. Also, sorry, give me a second. Also wanted to just kind of point out that I'm doing at that career visioning class, I'm doing a leadership mentorship webinar with Debbie DeGroat in the morning, really early in the morning. So if you are going to attend career visioning, we would love to have you with us. We're going to do a kind of a small private event that morning. Debbie DeGroat is the president of Forward Coaching, which is our coaching company, and really one of the most sought after coaches in the nation. She was my very first coach at MAPS Coaching, and she's incredible. So the propaganda's over, Christy. Are you ready to go?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Okay. So I wanted to start not necessarily with the tools, but with a little bit of a reminder why we set goals. So Christy, what's the most logical reason you would think that we would set goals?
So we achieve the goals. I mean, you have to have a game plan.
Yeah, that's the answer that almost everyone would say. Like, duh, Via, we set goals so that we can achieve them. What if I told you that the importance of setting goals isn't actually to achieve them, it's to be appropriate in the moment? The purpose of setting goals isn't to achieve them, it's to get you to act in the right way in the moment. It's a different way of looking at things, isn't it? It's a
Yeah, it
paradigm
is.
shift. Yeah. Well, the goal should be a dictator of your actions. Whether you hit the goals or not is secondary, right? So I just wanted to kind of, share that with you guys. Everybody knows what SMART goals are. You definitely want to set goals in the right way. You want them to be, specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound, meaning they have a deadline on them. So that's really important. But I also want you guys to be mindful of not setting goals that are just plain doable. I want you guys to stay in the space of what's possible, not what feels doable. Because part of what you're going to do when you set your goals is you're going to set, I hope, a really big, lofty goal. And you're going to realize, look, I don't know what it takes to get there. I don't know who I have to be to get there, but I'm going to set it anyway. Because then what we can do, that's when we can really use these tools to go back and say, well, who do I have to be to get to this goal?
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
And what do I have to do to get to this goal? So in that sense, I just want to kind of encourage you guys. We don't just set goals to hit them. We set goals so that we can do the right activity in the moment. Anything you want to add to that, Christy?
No, I think it's really important to, and what goals make you go out of your comfort zone. Like
Yeah,
how can you grow as you're attaining these goals? It's about the growth and about the path you're taking.
that's right. Yeah, really, really important, I think. Okay. I just wanted to, give me a second. Here we go. The second thing I kind of wanted to just be sure that we're all clear about before we move into the productivity tools is that, and I say this a lot, live a priority driven life. Do not live this undisciplined pursuit of more. So when you're setting your goals and you're starting to set your strategies and priorities and tactics behind them, think about what your priorities in life are, right? Think about what your priorities are to hit your goal. Gary Keller says it really well that, a to-do list ends up being like a stream of consciousness dump. There's no priorities in there. A to-do list tends to treat everything equally, right? And a priority and a success list and a life where we're building blocks of importance and we're focusing on those every year, every month, and every week and every day. That's how we want to live, right? So I wanted to kind of point that out. One of the things that I tell my people a lot is if it can't, a big, huge, lofty goal can't go on my calendar. It just can't. Like I can't say I want to bring in $1 million of net income this year. I can't put that on my calendar. I mean, we're going to talk about it later. It goes on my calendar, but it doesn't go as an appointment. What I can put on my calendar is I'm going to call 20 people today and ask them this question and get this many appointments. That can go on my calendar, right? So when we live a priority life, what happens is that we start realizing that we need to spend 80% of our time on the 20% of our activities that get us our results. What do we call that, Christy?
Well, focusing on the first domino, like we talk a lot about that.
Yeah, we call it the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule. Yeah, and it's definitely dominoes. One of the other focusing questions that I use when I look at my priority-driven life is I say, all right, if I'm going to list this activity and focus on it this week or this month to get to this goal, let me ask myself this question. If I screw up on every other aspect of this category, but I succeed in this one thing, have I won the day or have I won the week? Oh, weird. The webinar is not, thank you, Ashley. Ashley Van Winkle just said that the webinar is not in share screen mode. So I'm gonna fix that. Thank you, Ashley. Find it, here it is. Yeah. Thank you, Ashley. Is that better? Can you guys see that okay?
I can see it. I don't know. Yes. Robin's saying yes.
Cool. Awesome.
Much better.
Thank you, Ashley. Appreciate you. So, so this is a great slide of two people talking. So luckily you haven't really missed anything yet. But the focusing question I always have is, if I screw up on everything in this category, have I still won the day or the week or the month in this category? And the best example I can give of that is I lost 70 pounds one year, about 3 years ago. And I remember going, well, you know, I don't know what my yearly or my monthly goal should be. I just know that I knew that I wanted to weigh this much, but I didn't know, should it be a body fat goal? Should it be a, you know, health goal? I just wasn't sure. And I remember having this moment where I thought I could screw up on everything. Like I could probably eat pizza every day, but if I lost my 70 pounds, like that all would be okay. I have succeeded in my health goal for the year, right? So that became my big, hairy, audacious goal for that year. It was a weight goal. So by asking myself that focusing question, it kind of helped me set that big goal. I could have asked myself the question, if I had 23% body fat and I screwed up on everything else, would I have won the year, right? And the fact is that it probably would have been the same thing. It's fine. But for me, it was a weight goal because it was just a really easy, simple focusing question. So every single health activity I did, I had that focusing question, you know, is my priorities to lose 70 pounds? Is this activity that's about to be on, you know, go on my monthly goals, is that going to be a priority for me to lose that 70 pounds? So that's what I mean by a priority driven life. Anything you want to add to that, Christy?
No, I think the focusing question is really important. And what I had for this year was getting my real estate license. So then I chunked that down, you know, and it was, what am I focused on? What am I, you know, how many chapters do I need to read? You know, it was something more like that. So I could get to the end of that.
That's great. This is a mantra that all of my people are so tired of me saying, but I'm going to keep saying it. And that is that once you set your big, hairy, audacious goal in every category, really, I personally think that you close that door. It's immovable. We'll talk about that in a minute. So you want to then start turning to putting the pressure on your activities, not your outcomes. And for those of you who are really driven by outcomes, like I really am naturally more driven by outcomes than I am by activities, you have to sometimes shift your energy and your focus over to the activities, right? So I have to learn how to get just as amped up about my activities as I used to get amped up about the outcomes. I think the really cool thing, though, about talking about a 135 and a 411 right now, this time of year, Christy, is that January 1st is the natural first time for people to start things over and to start with a clean slate. I'm reading this book called The Power of Moments by Chip and Dan Heath. I don't know if you guys have heard of that book. And there was some really fascinating data that came out. So a Wharton professor, her name's Catherine Milkman, found that at the beginning of a new year, we feel like we have a clean slate. And she calls that the fresh start effect. And really what it is that it's the old me is wiped away, and now I have a new me that can start over on January 1st. So her contention is we shouldn't call them New Year's resolutions, we should call them New Year's absolutions, where we get absolution from the last month's stuff so that the new me starts on January 1st. And she said it's like a mental accounting trick, right? That our past failures are left in the past with the old me, and new year starts today, and that's the new me. So she started doing research on milestone days. She started looking at the first day of the week, so Mondays, and then she started looking at the first day of the month and the first day of, in their case, a new semester, because she was looking at gym attendance at the Wharton gym, or at the Penn gym. So the probability that students visited the gym increased at the beginning of every Monday of every new week by 33%. It increased every new month by 14%, and it increased by every new semester by 47%. So if you're watching this and it's midway through the year, then take a milestone, either a Monday or the first day of the next month, or a birthday or an anniversary, or a first day of a new quarter, and use that to do the clean slate effect. and to wipe away the old you and to start with the new you, because really all this is about building habits, right? And putting the pressure on the activities, not the outcomes.
I really like that. I like that you can start it at any point, because you could start it any Monday and you could start it any first of the month versus waiting till January 1st.
Yeah. Yeah. I really liked it too. All right. You ready to go into the 135?
Absolutely.
Cool. So this is the 135 or the GPS. I don't want to spend too much time on this. This is, to me, a chicken or the egg thing, Christy. Do you do the 135 and then do the 411, or do you do the opposite? And I think I think you do both sort of simultaneously. So what the 135 is it's a tool to put your priorities and strategies in place to hit your goals. Goal is G, P is priorities, and S is strategies. So the cool thing about this is that it's one main business objective or one main business goal, and then it's 3 goals to achieve the objective, and then it's 5 strategies for each of those priorities, right? GPS, I said it wrong. How I do this, however, and I'm going to pull up mine, I do everything on a Google. I'm just going to share another screen here. I do everything on a Google format, and I'm happy to share these with you guys. Okay, here we go. So can you guys see that okay?
Yep.
Okay. So this is what my format looks like. This is just done on a Google Sheet. Again, I can share it with you. I'll send you the link. It's really, to me, much more pliable. It's a living document when it's on Google Forms. So what happens is you can do this and you can share it with your coach or your leader, or or your people that you lead as well. Ben Kinney created a kind of a little bit of a add-on to this. He calls it a 1355 who, and that really works well for me. So this is where we state our big goal, and then I put the 3 priorities, and then I go into the 5 strategies. This is the extra 5. You can see, you can get really specific. The brain likes specifics. So anytime you're setting goals or priorities or strategies or tactics, the more specific you can get, the better. So I thought I would show you guys an example. This is my VIA group one I did in 2017. And I thought it was just a really good, well-rounded example of what a filled out 1355 who looks like. And as you can see on here, I wanted to close 166 units in 2017. I have changed my format, and I'm going to show you the format we use now. I believe that it's better to word this as a full sentence and to put all metrics in here. So if you're in real estate, units, GCI, and volume. I like to have all 3 in here. However, in 2017, I wasn't that evolved. So it was to close 166 units. And I determined that, these were the 3 things I was going to do. And the reason I wanted to show this to you is you can see in the bright bold letters are the 5, but you can also see under the 5, look how specific I got. And you can see I have names attached. It was not all me. That's why we call it the 1355 who. You can see, Caitlin at the time was my operations person, and you can see there's a ton of Caitlin stuff in there. See that? So I thought I'd show you an example of what I do. The standard example, though, is the one that we showed you. The simple document is the one that, let me find it here, the one that's on our slide deck. This is kind of the most common one. So I love doing the 135 first before you go into the 411, which we're going to spend the most time. My caveat is that the 135 is really designed for one big goal. And your 411 should have more than that on there. So it's probably not realistic that you're going to do a 135 for each of your goals that we're going to talk about. However, I think that doing a 135 for at the very least, that the major item in each category, and we're going to talk about that if you want to do 2, 3, or 4 categories. I do 4 categories. I do business, job, personal financial, and then personal. So I like to do a 1-3-5 for my big things in each categories. In a couple more, I'll probably do 6 1-3-5s this year for my big stuff. What about you, Christy?
For me, for my big stuff, I try to, it's usually around 5,
Okay.
you know, and I do my 411. We can talk about this a little different, but I have 3 categories versus your 4.
3 is perfectly acceptable. Okay, I think that's good on that. All right, so this is where we're going to spend the most of our time. And that's on the 411. You know, you do not have to do it at 1-3-5. So if you want to just go ahead and throw all of your goals on the 411, that's great. Some of you are wired in a way that it's really going to be helpful for you to go through that process to start off with of doing that 1-3-5 to set the goals. I find the 1-3-5s are really like one-page business plans for whatever it is you're doing. And by the way, I've done a 1-3-5 on everything. I've done it on my weight. I've done it on my marriage. I've done it on business, on my roles. I've done a 1-3-5 for a lot of categories, and so it doesn't just have to be business, is what I'm trying to say. Do you use 1-3-5s, Christy?
I do mostly for business, you know, around things we're doing for Ben Kinney companies.
Yeah.
I haven't used it too much, but I can see where that would be valuable because I'm looking at my yearly goals for this past year. And I had a profit share goal, but I didn't have any steps to get that profit share goal. And so that would have been helpful.
So can I expect to see you 1-3-5 in the next 30 days from you on profit share?
Absolutely. Yay. That means recruiting.
I'll give you a 1-3-5 in exchange for my health. I need to do one for my health.
Okay.
And I've already started one for brokerages. Yeah, I naturally do it for business, but I want to encourage everybody here to use the 1-3-5 for personal stuff. Okay, 411. This has been a game changer for me, and I know Christy is really, really good at using this in her work life as well. So I'm really excited to share it with you. And I completely blew this off at first too. I thought it was way too confusing, and it just didn't click with me. So stay with me. I get that this may not be the sexiest topic in the world, but if for the next 40 minutes you focus on what Christy and I have to say, and you spend a little time on this, I guarantee this time next year, you will reach out to me and you'll say, Via, I hit my goal, or at least I'm way farther than I ever thought if you do this. Seriously. Did I oversell it, or is that true, Christy?
No, that's true. And then it gives you a tool, because the way we have it formatted, at least with mine, is every month I just go along, and then it's interesting when you're working with other people or just looking at it yourself, you can see what you've done in the past year. And I think there's something to be said about that, about a year in review, which ones you hit, which ones you missed, and what you're going to do differently in the coming year.
Oh, for sure. Really well said. This is the general format of it. Okay. So you can see in this particular format, there's 2 categories. There's simply business, and then there's personal. And you can see the general format of the 411 is we have annual goals. That's your 1, monthly goals, 1, and then weekly goals, which is your 4. Meaning, your annual goals stay consistent. They do not change. They are immovable. But your monthly goals are what you do every single month to hit your annual goals. And then your weekly goals are what you do every week to hit your monthly goals. I am going to share with you guys an additional format that I use. So I have used this format for a long time. Let me find it. Here we go. I have used this format forever. And once again, this format is it's a Google document. And I can share that. Yes, I will share. I've had a lot of you on chat. I will share all of these with you. Some of you are going to actually resonate better with a much simpler format. And you're going to just write it down with a pen, or you're going to want a really simple format. And that's okay. It just doesn't matter. It's how your brain thinks. For me, personally, this is a living, breathing document that we're going to talk about in a minute that spills over to my Google Calendar. And so for me, it really has to be specific and detailed, as you're going to see in a second. And I'm going to share mine with you, by the way. This is mine. I did edit some of it, but I got up this morning, and this is, I picked a month that I thought was a good representation, which is April, but this is real. This isn't created for this webinar. This is my real, 411. So for me, this works really well. So let me just see. Can you guys see all 4 categories when I do that?
Yeah, now
okay.
we can.
Perfect, now you can. So for me, I do 4 categories. Christy, you mentioned you did 3. 3 is the most common. I have different business entities. So I have Via Group. This is going to have to change. I now have three or 4 different business streams in my life. So I'm going to have to start making decisions on how I handle that. But I should ask Ben how he handles that. But I've got right now, how I have it is I have the Via Group, and then I have BKCO. So Via Group, in the past, I think a good way to do this is we call this our business, and we call this our role. So if any of you watching have real estate teams, what you might want to do is you have your team CEO hat on. You have your team goal, like you want to sell 200 units as a team, but you might be, say, the listing specialist on your team. And you personally are responsible to bring in, 120 listings that year, whatever the number is. So that would be a role-specific category here, but your business might be over here. So for most people, it's going to be 3. It's going to be business, financial, and personal health, right? For the majority of people, you're going to have 3. So I am going to focus on these 3, if that's okay with you guys. I think that I'm not normal. What else is new? No comments, Christy. Okay. Nothing normal about me. Okay.
One thing I was thinking about, for all the people that are out there that are productivity coaches or have a second role, I mean, that's where you would have the 4 columns.
Really well said. 100% accurate. Dual career people, really anything, right? That's really.
Or if there's something you're really trying to develop, so you'd have your business, and you'd have the role, and then financial and health, personal.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So this is what, this is the format of mine. If you can see down below, I have tabs for every month. So in the formula for this particular spreadsheet, the annual goals carry over to the next month. The annual goals are immovable. And we'll talk about that in a second. But for now, I just wanted to show you the format. And that is that we go into monthly goals here, and then we go right into weekly goals. And we're going to come back to this. Don't worry. We're going to come back to this. But I wanted to show you the overall format. Okay. So we're doing a lot of screen shifting today. This is exciting. Exciting.
I'm very impressed.
Exciting.
I'm not doing that.
Yeah. Woo. Good to go. Okay. Annual goals. So annual goals are immovable. And what I mean by that is that, once you set them, they don't change, right? So the best example I can give you on that is go. Well, I'm going to give you that example in a second because I want to talk about this. Monthly goals, though, are milestones, and they are adjustable. So care and consideration really has to go into your annual goals, okay? And I think it's a fine line between what's possible and what's doable. I don't want you to just set goals that are simply doable, because remember, the reason that we set goals is to become the person we need to be and to act in the moment in a way that's going to get us to that goal. So if I'm a real estate agent and I'm selling 20 homes a year and I want to sell 100 homes a year, who do I have to be? What do I need to do to get there, right? So, what if I'm selling 20 homes this year and I want to go to 100, is it realistic that I go to 100 in a year? Probably not. Probably not. So I want to balance this doable and what's possible. I don't want you to lose that 100 unit goal though. That's your 100 unit goal. See that? See the top, the flag? That's your 100 unit goal. You're right here at 20 units, okay? This is what I want you to do. This is really, really important to me. I use this analogy every single day. What I want you to do is really focus on your next base camp to get up to that summit. So if the summit in this example is 100 units and you're at 20 units, what's the next domino? What's the next base camp you have to get to hit to it? Well, probably what it means is you have to get to 40 or 50 homes. And in order to get to 40 or 50 homes, most people have to hire an assistant. And the other thing most people have to do is they have to find a predictable, good income source or income stream, a predictable lead generator, right? So there's a whole bunch of things you have to do to get to that first domino. And that first domino on my example of a base camp takes the longest. It usually takes the longest to get to domino number one or base camp number one. What I found, I was in Gary's top agent group for a long, long time. And what I have found is that, getting from, 0 to 20 million takes a lot longer than getting from 20 million to 60 million, which is fascinating in volume sales. And it's because the domino the first base camp typically takes the longest to set up. What I also want to share with you is that a lot of you guys future trip, including me, and we future trip and we go, and we get all bogged down and we worry about base camps 2 and 3, and then we worry about the summit all the time. What I want you to do is shed that. And on your 411, what I want you to do is say, okay, I know that the summit of my mountain is going to be 100 units, but I know that in order to get there, my first base camp has to be 40 units. And all I want you to do, I want you to shed everything after that. And all I want you to do this year is focus on that first base camp. Really, really important. Don't make that immovable. You will hit 40 units this year if that's your goal, right? Make that immovable. Your monthly and your weekly goals, though, they're going to be changing, right? You need some milestones for sure, especially in your monthly goals. In order to hit that, you really do need some fairly immovable quarterly milestones, but they don't have to be that immovable. Listen, you guys, my best year, I did about 70 million that year. I had the worst January I have ever had in the history of real estate. I think we closed one deal. So, so my monthlies did change that year, right? For sure they changed. What it did though, because I had some quarterly milestones on my 411 that I had preset on there, what it did is it made me put the pressure on in February, not in November. Right. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I really like this visual. I'm a visual person, and that the base camp, and going to the top of the summit is very powerful.
On a personal note, it's really funny you should say that. Because I had a little moment last week. I've been using this analogy forever, and I sent a video to our graphic guy, Josiah, and I said, Josiah, I've been using this example. Can you make me a graphic? And he sent this back to me, and it was really good. And I was like, OMG, I am Mini Ben. I just had my first Mini Ben moment where I had an idea and a concept, and you turned it into a graphic.
Yeah.
So that's really cool that you complimented the graphic, because I think I had a little moment with this graphic. But
yeah, I hadn't seen it before, and so I was like, because you said, I talk about this, and I'm like, I have not seen this.
Yeah, I talk about it, but you haven't seen the graphic because it's new. We're debuting the graphic right now.
Okay. Well, it works for me. I like it.
Yeah, it's good, but I think it's it's really good to look at the fact that your annual goals warrant care and consideration. And your summit of that mountain, Christy, your summit may not be a 2020 summit. It might be a 2023 summit, right? Yeah. So even your very annual goals might actually be a base camp, if that makes sense. It depends how you look at it. But regardless, we really want to make the annual goals immovable: health, financial, job, business. So that, then what we're doing the rest of the year is we're constantly calibrating our monthly and our weekly goals, right?
So would you also call that non-negotiable goals, Are
The
you using
annual's
that word?
non-negotiable once we set it, but monthly and weekly are flexible.
Yeah, they
Mhm.
are.
Yeah. I think of monthly as milestones. I think of quarterly. I really do think quarterly. That's the way my brain thinks. So to me, to me, I do preset some of my monthly and quarterly goals to make sure that I'm on target. I never ever recommend anybody though that you pre-fill in weekly goals ever. I know that some people like to sit down for the month and fill out all of their weekly goals that month, and I do not recommend that. I really, how can you know where you're going to be on week 3, right? I mean, what if you got sick on week 2? You really,
Exactly.
you can't know, right? I was
Well,
gonna,
and then it makes it just be a task
yeah.
and not, I think you need to do it each week. I think there's something important about the time of day and when you do it for the following week. So it's not so much just about your tasks.
Yeah, for sure. And so that, exactly, that's what I was going to go into, Christy. Thank you for sharing that. So for me, that's my Sunday. Sometimes it's Saturday, but typically it's Sunday for me. Sunday is my day to review the numbers for the past week. For in our case, I run our brokerages, so I'm looking at all of our numbers of the past week, and I'm going back and color coding my calendar, which I'm going to show you guys in a minute. And I color code my calendar in retrospect. I'm not really good in the moment, but I color code it because it gives me a really good visual if I'm hitting my priorities, correctly. And then I was going to show you mine. So this is for April. I picked, that's annual. Hold on a minute here. There we go. Sorry. There we go. Okay. So I wanted to kind of show you what a typical weekly 411 looks like for me. I like to think in terms of buckets. And so what I mean by buckets are I have typically a top 5 list of priorities that I look at every single day, certainly every single week, that's completely comes from my 411. And what I like to do is I like to label my priority list with those buckets, because I don't ever want to get involved in sending Christy or Ben my priority list and having it be a to-do list. It's not going to move the needle, right, for me. So you can see here on my, this is on my roll, you can see that in advance of the task, I have buckets, right? So win, make, give, agent retention, mergers and acquisitions, leadership productivity. These are all my various buckets. So I have sent these before. Christy and I typically send them to Ben every week. And I've sent them before to Ben and he's flat out said, nope, leadership, let me see if I've got, leadership needs to be, where's leadership? It should be on top and it should be number 1, 2, and 3. And you don't even have it on there, or you have it as number 7. And so that's where having accountability behind this works really well, which we'll talk about in a second. So I just wanted to point out that mine get really, really specific on a weekly basis. And I just don't know how you could preset this. This really has to be a weekly activity. There are some things that I have preset before, like I'll sit down at the beginning of the month. If you look at my far right column, you can see, definitely I'm mapping out my books a little bit. I'm kind of mapping out some of my financial stuff was a little bit mapped out in this case. Does that make sense? Actually, my financial stuff, I'm looking at this, was definitely week to week. Anything to add to that, Christy?
No, just I think it's important to keep it week to week.
Yeah.
Even with the reading of the books, you don't know when you can get a book read.
Yeah.
And when you add another one or someone gives you a book and you start reading that, and
Yeah.
what you're doing with that information.
Yeah, totally agree. Okay, let me stop the share and go to Mandy's using Asana for project management. I tried that, Mandy, and that Asana made my head explode and I can never do it. I'm just going to leave it at that. It was really great, but whoa, that is for a certain type of mind, and I'm not sure I have it. I've tried, Abe Shreve tried to get me to try a couple, and they just did not work for me. So what does work for me, though, I'm going to toss it over to Christy in a second, but I wanted to kind of show you guys how I live the 411 on my calendar, and see if this resonates with you guys. And I'm going to toss it over to Christy when we're done with this, because she's really good at using it to coach. She's much better than me at using it to coach. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to go back to my trusty. Okay, so again, I've seen different webinars on how to live your 411 on your calendar, and a lot of them get really techie, and this is not a techie example. So it falls into the category of me trying to translate and focus on my activities, not my outcomes, right? So what I do are, you can see these are all color coded, right? But you can also see that up there at the beginning of every week. You can see, can you see my calendar okay?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah, for the week.
Yeah, my priorities. So this is real. This isn't edited for this webinar or anything. This is just me showing you what I look at every single morning. So it shows up as an appointment on my calendar. It's private, and it shows free, meaning you could schedule over it. And this is a list of my priorities in order, which stem directly from my 411. And every single day it's on my calendar. The other thing I do on here, a little personal, but I made some commitments to Ben when I took this role, and I read them every day. And so I also have my commitments on my calendar. You can put anything you want on your calendar. You can create them as showing you as free, and you can make them private if you have other eyes on your calendar. I don't know if you're aware of that. And mine are always color-coded gray for neutral. So I just thought I'd share that with you. The second thing I do with the color coding is I try to go back, if I can, at the end of every day and backfill how I actually spent my time. We have a thing that we do at Ben Kinney Companies, and it's measuring every 15 minutes. What do we call that? 15-minute tracker?
15-minute tracker.
Yeah, 15-minute tracker. So I try to do that in retrospect a lot. And so I'll go back on my calendar if I can, if I'm having a good day, if I'm having an organized day, and I'll go back and fill in what I actually did so that I can really get a good sense of where I'm spending my time. And I always think, Ben used to always say this in trainings, he still says it. If your kids were going to come observe you for the day, would they be proud of you, or would they think you worked for Facebook, right? And I can honestly tell you that since I've adopted my 411 and gotten really priority focused and color code my calendar, anybody in the world could come observe me for the day, and I feel great about it. Like, you know, really feels good about it. So different things on here, like light green is leadership recruiting, dark green is agent recruiting. I need to be in light green as much as possible. So if Ben were looking at this calendar, first thing he would say is not enough green on there, right? Because this is the week, Christy, we had an OP meeting, and then I had a Gary Keller mastermind. So I had 2 days with no green on there, right? Blue is admin, and then pink is personal. I just have my color codes, right? Let's go to the next week and see if there's anything juicy on there. There's a little more green on there. You can see I was in town that week. If it's purple, it means I'm teaching or presenting. That kind of has its own special color. I did a lot of that, obviously, last week or 2 weeks ago. And that's just a really good example of my calendar, and where the 411, see that up there? My commitments and my priorities are all over the top up there, right?
And what I know about you, Via, is you follow this calendar.
Yeah, I really do.
Yeah, like this is your roadmap.
Oh yeah, if it's not on there, it doesn't exist for sure. For sure. Yeah. Okay, Christy, I'm going to toss this over to you. And I think we had some things you wanted me to share, right?
Yes. You want to let's just do a little bit about the cash talk.
Sure.
I want to start with that.
Dive in. I'll share it in 2 seconds.
Okay. So I oversee the Ben Kinney brokerages, and we have 6 market centers, 11 locations, and I have leadership in all those locations. And the people that are direct reports to me, this is, a way for me to initially start our working relationship, the cash talk, which is all about your knowledge, your attitude, your skills, and your habits. And I use this for the first 30, 60, usually just 2 months. And it helps me have a conversation about exactly what they're doing in their role and what the person needs to succeed in their role. And it's just a great tool for when you just hire someone and you start that conversation. And so I can share that this is a Keller Williams piece on KW Connect. But it works really well for me because when we're hiring agent services, people maybe that this is their first corporate kind of job, it's a good place to start. So
yeah,
so I like using that. And then
I think this is great to framework, Christy, how, because we're probably, if they're new working for us, they haven't done a 411 yet. So it's a great way to framework what they're going to put on there, right?
Right. Yeah. The 411, in my opinion, if you gave that to them to begin with, without any of this other information, they wouldn't know where to start. And so this helps them have a dialogue with me, and it also helps them to think about their role and how they can grow in their position.
Yeah, that's great. Okay.
And then I switched to the 411, but the piece that has been critical with this, in addition, and it's a good bridge from the cash talk, is the 411 prep form. And so I'm sharing one of someone that reports to me, and she's been with our company 3 months now. And so we went from the cash talk to the 411 prep, which then leads into the actual 411 goal setting. But and you can see it's simple questions like growth and results from our previous session. What have you learned since our last meeting? I always like this, what I'm hoping you won't ask me about, because, that's where, they might talk about, mistakes or what they need improving on. And then on the last one is like the down towards the bottom, the one thing that would bring me the most value to focus on during our meeting. I always want this to be where I'm providing value and what do they need? Because in this busy real estate world, I don't always get to check in with everybody. And so I want them to already be thinking about these questions. So when we do meet, it's purposeful, we're on point, and it doesn't always take a lot of time, 20 minutes. And then the other thing that I'd like to point out on this is the people that this is important to grow your people. So if you're not doing this, they're not getting fed by your leadership and by what you can help them in their position. So
that's awesome.
I make time for it. It's an important part of what I do.
And I'm assuming that they turn this into you before your meeting?
Yes.
Okay. How far before?
Like the morning of. I don't need it a lot of time before. I want to read it and be prepared, and then if there's anything else, so I'll make notes on it. So whatever we've discussed, I get clarity on things, and then we go from there.
So I'm curious on chat. So I love this. I love this prep form, and I haven't seen this one. And by the way, I love the what do you not want me to ask you about? That's brilliant. I'm curious on chat. This may be a divide between ops and sales. So I'm wondering, do team leaders or agents would they fill this out? Would you actually fill this out every week for somebody? So if you're a team leader or a real estate agent, get onto the chat and let me know, because I love this, and I can't see, I can barely get a team leader or a sales agent to do their 411, let alone fill out a prep form. So I'm just wondering if it's realistic, that's just me being honest, but I love it.
Michelle Belch says I wouldn't. So she's an agent, Yeah, that is a good point. I mean, because the people, yeah.
Jody Hill. Okay. I love it. I mean, I think this is, fantastic. Christina, that's fair. That's honest. Christina's saying she used it 50% of the time. Michelle's like, look, I want to say I would use it, but I would struggle. Jody Hill's saying, it's about habits. If my coach expected it, I'd do it. So I love this. And to me, it makes you stop and pause and take that, few minutes that it takes before your coaching call and your coaching session. It's great. Okay. Cool.
Okay.
So Christy, are you having him do the 411 prep form and the 411, or are you using the prep form before you transition into using the 411?
I start with the prep form for the first month, and then they're working on their 411, as we're doing this, because, like you said earlier, you have to be, you want to be very careful and give thought and care to your goals. And so I want them to, and in some cases, this is the first time they've even been asked to do their goals.
Yeah.
So it's depending on who you're talking to, this is a very new experience for them. And especially with the personal and health, it's a fine line with how personal does someone want to share, and that's when I get into the SMART goals. I want it to be specific. I want the wording to be positive. I want them to focus on what they want to do, not what they don't want to do. And so it's really a learning tool is how I use it. Learning, teaching. And then the magic happens when they take ownership of it, which shout out to Tiana, because she has done that 411 every week for the last over a year now, and she sends it to me ahead of time. She always makes sure it's on the schedule, and we go over her 411, and we do the prep form as well. And that has taught me way more than what I've been doing myself. So thanks.
So that's great. So the prep form, once they start sending you their 411, do you continue to use the prep form?
I do. I do. Yeah.
That's great.
And like Tiana's is very, now it's very short and sweet, but it's a place, if there's something specific she wants to talk about, or there's a concern she has or something, whatever it is, she would put it on there.
Yeah.
Because it wouldn't always show up on the 411.
Yeah. That's great. Thank you so much for sharing that. You're really good and consistent with this. So we ask all of our ELT, our executive leadership team, which in our case consists of our team leaders and our MCAs, we ask them to email us their weekly priorities every week, not to-do list, priority list. When I started in the role, they were using just emailing them or sending a piece of paper, which is fine. What I've been encouraging over the last year is that if they're doing that anyway, why not just do it on a 411 and just share the document or copy and paste? What I've found with my fearless leader, Ben, is that he's never going to log on and see my 411. So what I do is I just take my week, and when I'm done, I copy it and I email that to him. So I want to encourage you guys, especially members of our ELT, if you're watching, there's really no reason for you to not do the 411 since you're already sending us your weekly priorities anyway, because it ties it in every single week when you do them. It's really tying it into your monthly and your annual goals. And I wish I had a graphic for this. I'll get one. I'll have Josiah do one. But I remember Brian Buffini. It just never has left me as a graphic. And he, if you take like a parabolic curve like that, can you all see my hand like that? He used to say, businesses have peaks and valleys, right? They go like this. Your business goes like this. But a coach's job is to help fill in the valleys so that it's more like this. See that? It's like a slow wave, not a tidal wave, right? So the quicker we can catch things as coaches, and when I say coaches, I mean as managers or leaders, the quicker we can catch things, you guys, the more we're going to stay on track for our goals. Accountability and calendaring, I think, have to be part of this discussion, right? So if Christy and Tiana, if Tiana's off track for a week or two, Christy's going to catch it on a weekly basis. It's not going to be a month or a quarter. right?
Right.
Makes sense. So that's really our goals as coaches and leaders, is to try to catch this stuff way upstream, and with ourselves too, right? And for all of us, who have our own businesses, by the way, just a personal plug, that's why we need coaches, because there's no one leading us per se. Like, that's why we have to pay for coaches, and none of us are so big that we don't need some level of accountability, right? So,
Exactly.
yeah. All right. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to plug them in. ASCs, if you've got an office watching, or PCs, you guys have your clients watching, feel free to designate someone to type in any questions. We've got about 5 minutes. Kelly Spencer. So cash talks for 2 months, then prep form for a month, then 411s.
Yeah. And when I'm doing the prep form, they're working on their 411. So if they're ready to share it, that can happen right away. But my experience with the newer people, it takes a couple of weeks.
So her follow-up question is, if you were doing a 135, would you integrate that with cash talks, or before you start cash talks? I would say, Kelly, your 135, I really think that the 135, God, I've got a candidate now. I have a candidate for a team leader position who literally gave me a 135 he's interviewing right now. So, that's unusual, but usually the 135 comes with a little time, I think. What's your answer to that, Christy?
Yeah, I would not start that. And for me, because I'm more of the operation side of it, that would be focused on like initiatives or things we would have in the office, like whatever, get more, and have our engagement be higher, and then we could do a 135 around that.
Yeah, exactly. I remember when I first took this role last September as GM, I spent the first 4 or 6 weeks inserting myself, kind of interviewing everybody, trying to get to the lay of the land. And it was about 60 days in that I think I submitted 135s to Ben. So it took a little bit of time. So I would say that all of this is kind of happening simultaneously. I've started thinking this way, so my head was going there. Like, what are my big priorities? And I was starting to sift through what I thought the big priorities were in my head. I know that Bruce Hardy has tasked the leadership in the Northwest to do a 145 on a particular topic, because he feels that really strongly there should be 4 priorities on something. So these are frameworks that can be certainly modified, over time. All right. Well, cool. Thank you guys for coming and sitting in. I feel like you guys sat in on, this is kind of a typical weekly Zoom that we have with our team leaders and MCAs. Usually they're a little more interactive, but this is what it's like for us, every week. We do this kind of a thing. So if you, love the idea of being in a world like this and are maybe interested in exploring a team leader opportunity, I'm your gal. Email me, call me, you know how to get me. I'm pretty easy to get. We are definitely actively hiring right now. So have a great Thanksgiving, and we really appreciate your time.
Bye-bye.